Okay, we're Chavtesamad Beis on the bottom. We are about 10 lines from the bottom. Ahu Aidisa. There was a shtar haida. Delay have a kasav ba. Amar lana kisvu v'chasmu. It didn't say in it that the Edom wrote in the Lashon Shtar. They did not write. The Loiva told us write and sign it. Now we said that if you don't have three people, if you only have two people, and there was no kinyan, then you have. Excuse me. The Edom have no rishus to write the shtar. So over here, and usually the Edom write, we had rishus to write the shtar. Over here, you only had two people sign it, but still, even though only two people signed it, it didn't say the Leiva told us kisvu v'chasvu v'havlei and give him the shtar. They didn't say that. So what's the halacha? Is this a good shtar or not? Abaye and Rava both said, Hainu Reish Lakish. This is Reish Lakish. We had this Reish Lakish in Bava Basra. Dam Reish Lakish. Chazal kein Edom chaysvin al shtar elam kein nasa gadol. If you remember, we had the halacha that a son who yarshins from his father cannot sell the karka until he's 20, right? And we said, what happens if you don't know the age? But the Edom just wrote the shtar. Reish Lakish says that if the Edom wouldn't have signed on the shtar unless they knew that it was okay. So Rabbi and Rav are saying that over here also it's just like that. The Edom wouldn't have written the shtar unless it was okay. So even though they didn't write in the shtar, so-and-so told us to write it down and give them the shtar, still it's going to be okay. Practical Gemara, muscular of Papi asked the kasha of Yitem Rav Huna Brei Rav Yeshua. Some say Rav Huna Brei Rav Yeshua asked this kasha. Is there anything that we don't know and the Sefer of Bezdin do know? In other words, he's saying that we Dayanim, not all of us, know this halacha about 2 Edom versus 3 Edom. So for sure the Sefer won't know. And that means that it could very well be that, even though the halacha is that you can't write the shtar without the person saying so, they didn't know. The Sefer didn't know, and he just wrote it, and that's why, and it was not done legitimately. You can't assume that it was done legitimately. The Gemara says, the answer is Shalinu l'sifri da Abaye v'yadi l'sifri da Rava v'yadi. They asked the Sefer of Abaye and they asked the Sefer of Rava, do you know this halacha that you cannot write a shtar unless there's a kinyan, or unless he said go write it for him, or unless there was 3 people like a bezdin, and all of those Sefer knew. So the Gemara says you see that the Sefer do know this. Zak the Gemara weiter. Ahi adisa da v'kasav bei duchran piskami v'chal lishnin beidina. There was a shtar haida, and it said in it the lashon was the lashon that Bezdin writes, not the lashon that Edom write. In Edom usually write zichrein edus, duchran, I don't know, sadus or something like that. That the remembrance of the edus, we're writing down to memorialize the edus. But the Dayanim, they write, we're writing down to memorialize the halacha, the thing, the psak. So the Dayanim write, duchran pizgami, memorialize, to remember. We're writing this down so that we remember the shtar is a raya that this is what happened. And all the lashonis that they wrote in this shtar was the lashon of Bezdin. It was the normal way Bezdin writes and not the Edom. However, only 2 people signed it. And in the shtar, it didn't say 3 of us were sitting here and 1 is not here. The halach is that generally speaking, when Bezdin writes a shtar, they write the 3 of us were sitting here like 1 is a Bezdin, and then all 3 sign. If one of them, what happens if 3 people are sitting on a Bezdin, and there's a din Torah, and then there's a psak din, and then they're about to write the shtar, then what happened? And then one of them dies. What are you going to do? He can't sign if he's dead. The Gemara says, the 2 that are remaining, the 2 that are remaining, they write, the Moshe Klas Avina, the 3 of us were sitting here, the Chad they say, and 1 is not here anymore. And then they signed it. So you know there was a Bezdin over here. So this shtar was written in the Sprach of a Bezdin, but only 2 people signed it, and it didn't say that one of them is not here anymore. Ravina wanted to say that this is the same halacha as Reish Lakish, that Bezdin wouldn't have written a shtar unless it was Kedasu Kalacha, and since it was in the Sprach of Bezdin, therefore there must have been a Bezdin here, and if there must have been a Bezdin here, it must have been there 3, but only 2 of them signed it. It's all signed. So he wanted to say it's the same as far as Reish Lakish, and it's okay. Amli Rav Nasan bar Ami, Hachamrim Shei Derava. Rav Nassim Rami said to Ravina, no. Rava said the following: in such a situation, we're chayshish that Bezdin made a mistake. Maybe these dayanim weren't such big Talmidei Chachamim, and they thought that two people are kosher to be a Bezdin.
You can find it out.
Rav Nachman Bar Yitzchak Rach Yitzchak said, because of Beidina Sulei Tzarech. He says, so if they wrote the words Beidina, then you don't need to write. You don't need to worry about that because everybody knows that a Bezdin is 3, right? That's why I didn't answer your question because everybody knows a Bezdin is 3. Right? Maybe they wrote Beidina because they're a Bezdin Chatzaf. The Gemara said, Amar Shmuel, that we had this earlier in the Masechta, Shnaim Shadanu Dinein Din, 2 people who judge their din is a din, El Shanikru Bezdin Chatzaf, they're called the Bezdin Chatzaf. So the Gemara says, the Kasav Bey Beidina D'Rabbana Ashi, they said, we're the Bezdin of Rav Ashi. Rashi explains that they said that this Gemara was written in the time of Rav Ashi. Ravina Rav Ashi closed the Shas, so therefore it uses the sprach of Beidina D'Rabbana Ashi. That means they wrote the Bezdin of this chashuv person. Now for sure. Right. So let's say today you would say they signed the Bezdin of Rav Vosner. Right? The Bezdin of Rav Vosner knows you need to have 3 dayanim. So, maybe the Rabbanan of Rav Ashi, they hold like Shmuel. They hold that you only need 2 because it's a Bezdin Chatzaf. But it's still Bezdin. The Gemara says, "V'amar lan Rabbana Ashi." Rav Ashi told us to sit down and do this din, and if Rav Ashi told us himself, Rav Vosner said we should sit down and do this din. If Rav Ashi said it, that means there must have been 3 people. If one person said to Yisaimim, I saw your father. He hid money in a box somewhere. He said it belonged to Yankel, or he said Shal Meiser Sheni Hain. There's Meiser Shenis, so you have to go and spend them in Yerushalayim, and you can food there. If he said this, the person said this in a house about money that was in a house, like he saw him put a box, between his mattress and his box spring, right? So it's hidden in the house. We don't believe him. Why don't we believe him? Because what kind of namanas does he have? What slur do we have to say believe him? He has.
Take a look.
No, we could see the money there, but who says it's Meiser Sheni? Who says it belongs to Yankel, right? However, but if it's in the field, his words are true. Why? Because in the field it was open to the public. He could have gone. He said, "I saw your father put the money in a box under this bush." Right? He could have snuck out at night, gone to the bush, and taken the money himself if he wasn't honest. Since he didn't, and he says it was Meiser Sheni, it must be true what he said that the father said it was Meiser Sheni, or the father said it belongs to Yankel.
The wrong guy.
The general rule is, if he himself could have taken it, his words are kayin. If it's not in his hand to take them, he doesn't have the ability to take them because they're in bias, then we don't believe him. Now there were kids who saw their father. That wasn't the third party. The kids themselves saw their father, and he put money in a shidduch box. And he said they belong to Yankel, or he said they're Meiser Sheni. If the demeanor, the way he said it over was like he's giving a tzava to his kids, then we believe them. Believe the father, and we say, yeah, it belongs to Yankel, or we say, yeah, it belongs to Meiser Sheni. In Kamarim, but if he looks like he's just sneaky, he doesn't want his kids to know he has so much money because they're going to fight over the Yerusha, or they're going to say, oh, our father's rich, we'll spend a lot more money because he's got money to pay for it, then we don't believe him. This is a story. Someone was mitzvah on money that his father left him. He didn't know he knew his father left him money, but he didn't know where it was. His father hid it somewhere, and he didn't know where it was. A malach, the Saran of Chalaimis, came to him in a dream. He said to him the following: Kach v'kachein, it's this amount of money, $471. U'makim ploini, it's in this and this place. Shal meiser sheni hein, and they're meiser sheni. Right? So now the guy went to that place and he opened up a box and he found exactly $471. And now he went to the Rav in the Shtat and he said, do I have to believe him also that it's Meiser Sheni and I can't use it for anything? I have to go spend it in Yerushalayim. This was a story. And the psak was a gemara that we've had elsewhere that divrei chaleim is leimalim v'lemridin. You don't go and make a psak based on a chaleim, and therefore, since he has no other makar to say that it's meiser sheni, he can use it like regular chul, and he does not have to be chayshed that it's meiser sheni. Zak the Maravaiter. Shnaim Oimrim Zakai Chulu. The two people said Zakai. The Mishnah said back and forth. If two people said Zakai and one said Chayiv, that's Zakai. If two people said Chayiv and one said Zakai, he's Chayiv. If the one person didn't know, then you have to add Dayanim. In fact, the Gemara Michtav Hechi Kasvi. How do you write the Sprach when Bezdin makes a psak? What do you write? Rabbi Yechon number Zakai. Rabbi Yechon says Bezdin says so and so is pater. Rish Lakish Amar. Rish Lakish says you do the following: Pliny mizakin, upliny mechayev. Yankel and Beryl dayanim, they said he's pater, and Shmerel the dayan said he's chayev. So you don't write just pater, just chayev. You write who said what. Rav Elazar Amar, Rav Elazar says a third sheet over here. Midivrehen nizdaka pliny. We say from the words of the dayanim, it came out that so and so is pater. What's the nafkamina between these three shitas? So first thing we're going to talk about
the moving on to Shimon money. Why? If you go shaver, he's finished. The come before us, I'm moving on Shimon money. So Shimon pays it back. Moving gets a shaver for this, pay back. So what the whole thing over here?
Look, we know that there's a concept of it in Torah, right? Right? A case that's as simple as what you said is not much of a shaila, right? But there are cases which are more questionable, right? So maybe the question was, maybe he lost the shaver, times he lost the shaver, maybe he said you were a shamer for me, maybe he said there was another business deal that was involved. There could be all sorts of crazy cases. You speak to a dayan, and I don't speak to Dayan very often, but you can speak to a dayan, and he'll tell you many crazy cases of I'll give you an example. Here's a case. I spoke to a dayan once, he told me the story. Two real estate agents came to him for the Torah. There's a shaila, who was the one who was considered the broker for the deal? And each of them said, I'm the broker, and I get the commission. And they said, let's go to a dayan. They went to the dayan and he paskined, and then one said, okay, good, and the other said, okay, good, and they were makabel the din. But that's not a very clear-cut, easy shaila, right? You have to know how to paskin in that case. So Bezdin would say, Yankel is chayiv, Beryl's pater. Yankel gets Beryl gets the commission, and Yankel doesn't, or vice versa, whichever one it is. Okay, so the Gemara says weiter. So the Gemara says there's three shitas in how Bezdin writes down the psak. Either they say Yankel is chayiv, Beryl's pater, or they say Dayan A and Dayan B said that Yankel is chayiv, and Dayan C said Beryl's pater. Or Rabbi Elazar says we came out from the halach of the din Torah that so and so is chayiv and so is pater. What's the nafkamina between them? So the Gemara is first going to say the nafkamina between the first two man amrim, and then going to get to Rabbi Elazar at that. The nafkamina is l'shlume ihu mansa ba'adayin. The nafkamina is whether, if it turns out that the Diana made a mistake, and we had the halachas before, earlier in the Masechta, of when a dayan has to pay back if he makes a mistake. So the nafkamina is, does this third dayan have to pay, the one who said the correct halacha, but he was outnumbered, does he have to pay a chelak in the refund that they have to pay back that they were mafsed the guy? Well, Mandamar Zakai Mishalik. Mandamar says Zakai that you have one psak all over and only you don't write which dayan said what, then everyone has to chip in. And the Mandamar who says that you say which dayan said what, who said chayiv and who said pater, then the person who doesn't have to, who said the correct psak, but he was outnumbered, he won't have to pay. Practically, according to Man Damar, who said that you just say zakai or chayev, you don't say which dayan said what, then the halacha is that they all have to pay. Why should the guy who said the correct psak pay? Lema lahu, let him say to the other two, Ili diditzai sisun, if you would have listened to me, atanami shlam, you wouldn't have had to pay either. So I'm not going to pay now, you guys pay. I said the right psak. So the Gemara says, Taka, it's a good kasha. And like nafkina between them is going to be something else. If they made a mistake, do the two of them who made the mistake have to pay the portion of the third one? Because you're right, the third one doesn't have to pay. But do those two have to chip in to pay for the third one or not? The Mandamar Zakai Mishalmi. The Mandamar says you just say Zakai straight across the board, you have to pay. The Mandamar Pliny Mizakar Pliny Michayv, and the Mandamar says you say what each dayan said, Loi Mishalmi. They don't have to pay. They only pay their own chelek, they don't pay what the other guy said. Practically, Mandamar Zakai Mishalmi, according to Mandamar who said that you just say Zakai or Chayev, then they have to pay the other guy's chelek. Let them say to him, if you wouldn't have been here, the Torah wouldn't have happened because we would have only had two dayanim.
Right.
So why should we have to pay?
Right off the hook.
It could be now. You says a third nafkamina. The nafkamina is mishum leselech brachol ba'mechal, saying lashon hara. Rabbi Yehuda Amar Zakai mishum leselech brachol. Rabbi Yehuda says you say Zakai, so there shouldn't be a hechetimsa where you could say that Yankov, I was okay. I paskined like you, but I was outnumbered. He says that no, you can't do that. Because if you do that, then it's going to look like a lie. Why is it going to look like a lie? It's going to look like it said Yankel is pater, Beryl is chayiv. That means it sounds like you're saying all three dayanim are the ones who said that Yankel is pater and Beryl is chayiv. But really it was 2 out of 3. So it's the shekar. So you can't do that. Rabbi Lazar is like the mar, is like the mar. Rabbi Lazar holds of both those svaras, and therefore he says, Hilka kasvi hachi. You write the following: Midivreihem, after the whole halachilach of the Tintera Nizdaka Pliny, so and so became chayiv and so pater. So you don't say that he's pater. You don't say he's chayiv. You don't say the names of the diyanim because you don't have let's say lebrachel issue. You just say it came out as that Yankel is chayiv.
That's the final decision.
That was the final decision.
The court rules like this.
Right. Exactly more weiter. The Mishnah said that after they would finish the Eidos, they would bring them in. The Gemara says the them is a little vague. Who's the them in the Mishnah? Practically more Laman. Who are you bringing in? Are you bringing in the Balei Dinin, the people who are arguing this Torah? Hasam Kaimi, they're standing there. The Mishnah never said that they should go out. Elul Eidim. So it must be you're bringing the Eidim back in. Siman, who is this like? Like Rav Nasan. It's not like Rav Nasan. Tanya learned in a brayso. La'olam ine dusn mitzrafas ajir shneim kafas. Tanakama holds that the two people's edus are not mitzaref until they see the edus at once. It means like this.
I think it's something to Abe Zerman. Right? It's one of Marcus.
Yeah.
Both sore, but that's the other is not.
Yeah. Yes, that's correct. But let's say a little slightly different case than the Gemara Makkos, because we're talking about the Imam over here. So what happens is that I come into Beis Din and I say, I saw on Monday Reuben lend money to Shimon, and you say, I saw on Tuesday Reuben did lend money to Shimon. And I saw $100 and you saw $100, so at least that was $100, right? Gemara says, no, that's no good. Because if they didn't see it at one time, the Gemara is going to say this first why that's no good. Rabbi Shimon Karcha says no. Afilu b'zachar that even if they saw it two separate times.
Same date.
The Gemara is going to explain this. That's the first halach in the brayso. First machlekes in the brayso. And their edus does not work in Bezdin, not only do we had a machlekes before about seeing it, but now we're talking about when they testify in Bezdin, they have to both testify at the same time. That's what the Tanakam holds. Rav Nassan says, you listen to Eid 1 on Monday. And the next day when his friend comes, you listen to what he has to say. You don't have to hear them at the same time.
But how am I seeing it? You're not hearing Eidus, you're not hearing they're not being made on the same thing, or they are.
Mark's going to analyze this very, very carefully, and it's going to answer your question. So the Gemara wants to say, though, that this is not like Rav Nassan, our Mishnah. Because if we're saying that you're bringing the Eidim back into Bezdin, why are you bringing them back in? Because must be you need to have both of them there at the same time. Rav Nassan says one could be here on Tuesday, one could be here on Monday, they can never even see each other, it's all fine, right? But Rav Nassan says no, they have to be, I'm sorry, but the Tanakama holds that no, they have to be they cannot be Zach or Zach, the Tanakama holds, right? In the case of what they say in Bezdin, the Tanakama said, right? So since the Mishnah says you have to bring them both in, you see that the Mishnah holds not like Rav Nassan. Rav says no, it's not Makrach. Maybe the Mishnah is coming to say that the Balei Dinim are brought back in. Why are the Balei Dinim out? We never said they go out. Rav Nechemia, it's going according to Rav Nechemia. The Tanya of Nechemia, and we're in the Raisa. Rav Nechemia tells us, the people with clear das in Yerushalayim, who were Dayanim, this is what they would do. And they would bring the Balei Dinim into the Bezdin. V'shem and Devrein and hear their tainas. And they would bring the Eidim in. V'shem and Devrein and listen to their tainas. And then send everybody outside. And then handle in the handlerai of what the psak is, and then they bring them back in, and they and then they say the psak. Practice the Gemara, Vatanya, we learned in the Raisa. So we're going according to Nechemia, and that was the verse that you bring everyone back in because you bring the Balei Dinim back in because you don't want to do the shaklavatari of the Bezdin in front of them. In fact, the Gemara Vatanya, we learned in the Raisa, Gamra Sadabar, when they finish making the cheshbainis, deciding the Shewin, Mechnisin as Eidim, you bring the Eidim in. So you see the Balei Dinim were there the whole time. Where it says, Ahid like Rav Nassan, that Raisa is going not like Rav Nassan. We're going like Rav Nechemia, and this Raisa is going not like Rav Nassan, who says that who says that you don't have to have the Eidim on the same day. This Raisa says Machnisin as Eidim is what we thought in the Havamin of the Mishnah, that the Eidim have to be there at the same time.
It's a simple thing. In Gosh court, you have jury duty. The jury acts as the Bezdin, really.
Yeah.
And everybody else goes out. They themselves.
Okay.
No,
for the contemplation, the deliberations.
Right. Deliberations is done with the three with the jury duties. They go out.
Yep. I've never been on a jury yet. Okay. Exactly where weiter. Gufa, we learned. We said before a halacha, the Midvaisa said that the Eidim are not mitzdaref unless they see the Eidus at the same time. Rabbi Shimon Karcha says even one after the other. In fact, the Gemara what's the machlekes? Where it says Ibay say Mikra, Ibay say Misvara. If you want, you can say it's a pasuk. If you want, you can say it's a svara. Ibay say Misvara. If you want, you can say it's a svara. One of the Kamasan High, like Kamasan High. One of the Kamasan High, like Kamasan High. The Mandi Amaru says, the Tanakamu says, they have to see it together. Because otherwise, it's not talking about the Eidos on the same manner. What does it mean that you're seeing Zachar Zah by El Halva? It means on Monday, we see Reuven lend Shimon $100. Or no, on Monday, I see Reuven lend Shimon $100. And on Tuesday, you see Reuven lend Shimon $100. Right? Was that the same $100? It wasn't the same $100. Clearly not. So we're going to both hook up together and go to Bezdin and say to Bezdin, we know that Reuven owes Shimon $100. Right? That's not so. You can't do that because I only saw one mana. You saw a different mana. How could you mitzdaref? Two different Eidosin. But the other man the Amr holds, both of them agree that Reuven owes Shimon $100. So therefore, even though it's different manas, they can still agree on the etzem eidos and say that they could be mitzvah. That's if you say it's a svara. If you say Mikron, if you want, you can say it's a pasuk. The ksiv, the pasuk says, "Vu eid ira yada." The pasuk says that a person is an aid, or he saw, or he knows, and if he doesn't say eidus, it's an avera. You can't not say eidus if you know eidus for somebody. So the sprach is "Vu eid ira yada." Vitanya, we learned in the Brayso. In Moshe Shneimar, the pasuk says, "Liyakam." The pasuk is "Liyakam echad ish l'chalav l'chochatas." A single aid cannot be made to a person should get punished or something like that. So, frak the Gemara, in Moshe Shneimar, "Liyakam aid." It says in the pasuk, an aid shouldn't stand up to say a testimony. In the issue echad, don't I know we're talking about a singular, one person? Why do you have to say "Liyakam aid echad"? Matam leimer echad. So, what's the echad teaching us? Zebon av. This is a binyan av. This is a source in Kol HaTorah Kalmakim Shnemer Eid. Whenever it says Eid, Harei Kan Shnayim, it means two. In other words, standard aid is two. Until the Torah specifies for you, it's only one. Like over here, where it said Lo Yakum Eid Echad Be'ish, because normally when it says aid, it means two. And the Torah taught us this halacha in the lashon of one,
singular,
that they both, those two eidim, have to see as one. So when it says Lo Yakum, when it says Luhu Eid and it's Lashon Yachid, it's to teach us that it's two Eidim. We know it means two Eidim, but it's Lashon Yachid to teach us that they have to see at once.
What is it?
We said before, Vu Eid Ra Yada, right? Well, we know that means two. But why does the Torah tell us singular? The Torah tells us that Halachas and Eidus in singular to tell us that even though it's two Eidim, they have to see it at once. The pasuk says if he's an aid or he knows or however it comes out that we know, that's enough for aid. And since we both know that Reuben owes Shimon $100, even though we know from two different transactions, it's still okay. This is the second half of the Brayso. Their Eidus is not Mekayim in Bezdin, it's not a good Eidus until they testify at the same time. So the Gemara says, Rav Nassan says, you listen to one today, and the other one could show up tomorrow, and we listen to him then. Gemara says the same thing. You guys say Misvara, you guys say Mikra. You could say it's a Svara, you could say it's a Pasuk. You guys say Misvara. If it's one, you could say it's a Svara. Mar Savar, one holds. Eid Echad Ki Asi, the Shvuasi. When a single aid comes into Bezdin, what's the halach? What's a single aid can do? You can't be mechayev mam. You can only be mechayev shvua. So the single aid, I'm coming in to be mechayev yankel shvua that he didn't owe money. He didn't borrow money from Barrel. But I'm not coming in to be mechayev money. I'm coming to mechayev shvua. Well, I'm coming in to mechayev shvua, and the next day the other guy's going to come to mechayev shvua. There's no aidim here that are mechayev mammon. The idach, but the other man the Amr holds, when they do come, think about it, when they do come together, right? They're coming in the same day, arm in arm. Are they speaking out of one mouth? First the uncle speaks, then Beryl speaks, right? It's not out of one mouth. They're not speaking like they're bunch of exactly, right? What's pshat? We're mitzaref them. We add them together. Here also, even though it's separate days, what's the difference? 10 minutes apart or two days apart? The same thing connect them. That's if you say it's a svara. If you say makra, if you want to say it's a pasuk. Pasuk says ilo yagid v'nasa avoinai. If you don't say the edus, you're going to get the einish. Everyone agrees, like the Rabbanon that argues from Shimon Karcha, and the Rabbanon say that you need to seed both the Eidos together. And now, it's the pasuk. The beginning of the pasuk is V'hu Eid Ira Yada. That's talking about his Re'iyah. And then the pasuk finishes off him Yagid if he doesn't say it in Bezdin. So the question is, are you makish the Re'iyah to the Haggadah? And you say like this: Mar Savar Makshim Haggadah L'Re'iyah. So you were arguing about whether you're makish the Haggadah to the Re'iyah. Mar Savar Makshim Haggadah L'Re'iyah. One man the Amar holds that you're makish the Haggadah L'Re'iyah. We said that the Re'iyah has to be like the Rabbanan Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. They have to both see together. So the Haggadah, they have to both say together. Also, Umar Sarv Lemekshina, the other one says no. Yeah, I'm asking that by the Re'iyah they have to see it together, but by the Haggadah they could say it separately. Zak the Gemara story. Rabbi Shimon ben Eliakim have a mishtaker aleid Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina l'mismachei loika mistayim elsa. Rabbi Shimon ben Eliakim was trying to have an opportunity to give smicha to Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina, but he didn't work out for whatever reason. We had the same thing in the first parak where we said they didn't have three people or a mismachim. It wasn't so pashat. Yom Echad, one day, Havi Yasef made Rabbi Yechanan. They were sitting in front of Rabbi Yechanan. He was sitting in front of Rabbi Yechanan, Rabbi Shimon ben Eliakim, and Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina was also there. Amar lahu, Rabbi Yechanan said to them, does anyone know halach Rabbi Shimon ben Karcha? Is that halach like Rabbi Shimon ben Karcha or not? Rabbi Shimon ben Eliakim. Rabbi Shimon ben Eliakim saw an opportunity here. He said, Dein Yada, he knows. Rabbi Yossi Rabbi Chanina, he knows. Amar lei me easy. So Rabbi Yechanan said, tell me, my friend, tell me what's going on, what the halach is. Amar lei, and I think this has to be, this is Rabbi Shimon ben Eliakim said to Rabbi Yechanan. First, Amar lei, listen m'chemar. First, give him Bereisha. First, give him smicha. So Rabbi Yechanan listened. Samchei gave him smicha. Amar lei. Now Rabbi Yechanan said, "B'ni and Marli Ketzad Shemata. Tell me what you heard." Amar lei. He said, "Kach Shemati." This is what he heard. Shemoyed Rabbi Shua ben Karcha Rabbi Nasan. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha is moed Rabbi Nasan. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha said that you have to see them both at once. He's saying that Rabbi Shua ben Karcha is moed to he's maida to Rab Nasan that you also have to say it at once. You can't say it on two separate days. Amar, so Rabbi Yechanan said, what?
Demonstrate that. 2 days or 3 hours apart. Like, has to be demonstrate that.
So, however, Rab Nasan would hold. That's what Rabbi Shimon Karcha holds also. It's Makish Hagad L'Riyah. I don't know if he's Makish Hagad L'Riyah. Pashta said that he's Makish Hagad L'Riyah. So he said, so Rabbi Yechanan wasn't happy because Rabbi Yechanan wanted to know if the halach's like Rabbi Shimon Karcha or not. And there are Mefarshim who explained this, that there was a cheshbon that he was saying what to try to answer Rabbi Yechanan's kasha. But L'maisa, Al Pi Pashtas, Rabbi Yechanan wasn't happy, he didn't answer the question. He said, L'zeh Shakti, this is what I needed? I didn't need this. Hashto ma ikar Re'iyah b'ad yadadi Amar Rabbi Shimon Karcha levi'inan. Rabbi Shimon Karcha says the Re'iyah you don't have to see together. Haggadah mibai? Do you have to tell us that the Haggadah? I'm sorry, I said it backwards before. I'm sorry. Let me take it back. He said Rabbi Shimon Karcha who says b'zachar zeh is moedet to Rab Nasan that it could be that the Haggadah could also be the Haggadah could also be b'zachar zeh. I think I said it the other way. I think I said that they both have to be together, but it's the other way. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha who said that, I can go back in the recording and see if I said it right before. But Manashach, I'll say it right now. Rabbi Shua ben Karcha said that they could be b'zachar, the Re'iyah could be b'zachar zeh. He's moed to Rab Nasan who says that the Haggadah could be b'zachar zeh. So now Rabbi Yechanan said this is a double. So this is what Rab Yossi Rabbi Chanina said to Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan said, this is a davar pashut. I don't need you to tell me this. Why? Because hashta uma ikariyah. The ikariyah, the main riyas edus that they're seeing, that sets the edus up. That it only could happen at once. Because by definition, it only happened at one moment in time. Rabbi Shimon Karcha Rabbi Shimon Karcha said you don't have to have it together. The Haggadah, which we already said, they're not actually speaking out of one mouth. Do you have to tell us? So of course he holds that the Haggadah could be separate. But Amar Lei, Rabbi Yechanan said, Hoil Valisa, once you got smicha, you don't go down from that. Amar Rabzer said, Shmami no, you hear from this, Gav Rabba, Kivin the Samach, when a person who's a Gav Rabba does smicha, it's already smicha. Or there's a gerse that says once he gets smicha, the smicha stays.
Interesting.
Yep. Amar Rabbi Bar Amar Rav. Rabbi Bar Rav said the name of Rav, Halach Rabbi Shua ben Karcha, V'im Bekar Kois V'im Tatlin. Rabbi Yehuda Rav said the name of Rav, and we're going to split down the sheet this later on. So over here, Rav is holding that Lalach like Rabbi Shimon Karcha, that the Eidim could say Eidos separately, whether it's Karka, they could see the Eidos separately, whether it's Karka or whether it's Metaltlin. In other words, let's say Yankel said that so-and-so is moided that this karka is yours in front of me, and Beryl says, yeah, he was moided in front of me also. They weren't together, right? There was 2 separate days. But they both saw that this guy was moided that this karka is his, that works. And that same thing would be by Metaltlin. One said that I saw that he lent you a mana on Monday, and the other one said I saw he lent you a mana on Tuesday. Even though it's 2 separate manas, they're both maskim that he's chayav him a mana, so it's okay. That's what Rav held. Ula Amar halach Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha bekarkais avlei b'metaltlin. Ula says no. He makes nafkamina between karka and metaltlin. Why? Because
2 different days. Why did you say really $200? Why do I have it?
Because they can't. Because you don't only have one aid on each on $200. You don't have 2 aid on $200.
One aid is not enough.
Each aid only saw $100.
Right.
So you only have $100 between both aidim.
So you can't
take $200.
It's together. Even though each one what's on Monday, what's on Tuesday.
You can mitzaref them together for the $100. You can't mitzaref them and make them $200.
Maybe $20.
It probably was $200, but we don't have edus for that. So that you can't do that. But by karka is different, because by karka they're both saying edus on the same piece of karka. They're saying this plot of land on Monday. One says he was moeded to me, and the other says on Tuesday he was moeded to me. But it's both the same piece of land, not like the mana where it's 2 separate $100 bills, right? So that's why Ula says by karka the halach is like him, but not by metaltlin. Amle Abaya said to Ula, halacha miklal defliki. If you're saying that the halach is Rabbi Shimon Karcha, it means that you hold that there are those who argue with Rabbi Shimon Karcha. There are Rabbanan argue with Rabbi Shimon Karcha, and they hold that by karka it won't be good. It's not so. Rav Abba said name of Yehuda, name of Rav. Moedim Chacham Rabbi Shimon Karcha be'edus karka. The Chacham are moedel in this far that we just said that by karka it'll work with 2 separate haidas and one aid on each. What?
It will work, yes.
Yeah, and not only that, but Tani Rav Idi bar Avin b'ni Zaken devei Karna. Rav Idi bar Avin said over that Karna, who was a big chacham, had his own set of mishnayos, his own Seder Nezikin. In his version of Seder Nezikin, he had Moedin Chacham Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha be'edus bechar u'be'edus karka u'be'edus chazaka. Let's explain that one at a time. But first, let's say our halacha. Our halacha is be'edus karka, that the Chacham Moedus Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha, that it works. What? First, I'm skipping. I'm going to go back to the Char and what do you call it? The second piece of this was Be'edis Karka. Right? So you see they're Moide by Karka. So you have 2 men, the Amr, who say that they're Chamar Moide by Karka. And that means they don't argue on the Rishon Karka. And Ula was mashma that they do argue. Our answers, Gavra Karamas, you're telling me a machlekes between Ula, a stira between Ula and Rav Idi, or Rav Avin? Rav Avin? It's not. I'm sorry. It was Rav Abba and Rav Idi. Marsa Pligi, Marsa Pligi. They're arguing. One holds they argue. They're about an argument in Shubha Karcha. One holds they don't argue. Now, what are the other cases over here? Umar says that in Karna learned in his Nizikin, Seder Nizikin, that the Chamar Moed Rabbi Yeshua in these 4 cases that 2 single Eidasin will be mitzvah. The first case is Bechar. The halacha is that a Kayin is not believed to say that there is a mum on a Bechar. Why? Because a Kayin has an incentive to have the Bechar become pasul, because then he can go and eat it because it's not Kaddish L'Mizbeach, right? He has to get a mum. So there was a chashash that the Kayin himself went and he himself put the mum there. So therefore, if a kohen comes and says edus to us that this bachar had a mum, we don't believe him, right? However, let's say the kohen brought. So the kohen has to. So let's say he does have a bachar with a mum. What does he do? We're not going to believe him because we're chayshish that maybe he put the mum there himself. He has to bring 2 eidim with him to Bezdin, to the chacham, and say, look at this, and the eidim will be made that he didn't put the mum there; it came from somewhere else. Okay. So now, what if this bachar has 2 mum on it? And one aid said, I saw this mum it came all by itself, the kohen had nothing to do with it. And the other aid said, I saw this mum came by itself. L'maisa, they're both being made that this bachar has a mum, and therefore they can move it starf. That's case number 1. The second case was by Eidus Karka, which we just explained. The third is by Eidus Chazaka. Let's say one aid says, I saw Yanko lived over here for 3 years, year 1, 2, and 3. And the other aid says, I saw Yanko lived here years 4, 5, and 6. Together they can be mitzvah if they both say that he was there for 3 years and no one knows Mara. And the last case is that if you're being made that a boy or a girl has 2 saras and is there for a gadol or a gadayla, but once the Gemara is going to say the shayla is one only saw half and one only saw half, you still can be mitzvah. Now, the Gemara right now is going to talk about that last case. What's this case of Shtei Saras by Ben and Abbas? Maybe where it says "My v'chein shebeben v'shebevas." What does it mean? The same thing applies by the case of Shtei Saras of a gadol or a gadayla to make him a gadol or a gadayla. If you're going to say echad aimer achas begava v'echad aimer achas bekreisa, one says she has one here by her joints and one by her stomach. So, hi, chatzi davar v'chatzi edesu. Over here you have chatzi davar and chatzi edus. Chatzi davar means neither of them saw that she had shtei saras, and neither of them said the same thing, right? So you have 2 tartila races. This is no good. Ella, what shad is echad mishtayim begava, echad mishtayim bekreisa. One says, I know he's a gadol because I saw 2 begava, and the other one says, I know he's a gadol because I saw 2 bekreisa, and therefore, both of them are saying so and so is a gadol or so and so is a gadayla. Amr Rav Yosef says, Rav Yosef had the other way around. That Ula holds, before we said Ula holds Allah Kishua like Rav Shimon Karcha only by Karka. But Rav Yosef learned that the Ula that the Allah is like Rav Shimon Karcha all over by Karka and Metalpin. Rabbanan the Asumi Mechuza Amri. The Rabbanan came from Mechuza say Amr Rav Zeir Mishmei Rav. Rav Zeir said the name of Rav. Not that what Rav said before that the halach is like Rav Shimon Karcha by both, but like what we said before from Ula, that Rav said by Karka, yes, the halach is like Rav Shimon Karcha, but not like Metalpin. And what's pshat? Rav l'tamei. Rav goes l'shita say. Dama Rav says the following: Hoida achar hoida. If let's say on one aid saw one hoida on Monday, and the other aid saw another hoida on Tuesday. It could be that both haidas are on the same mana. We don't know, right? Or let's say haidah achar halva. One aid saw first a halva on Sunday. One aid saw me give you a loan of $100, and the next day, the second aid saw you be maida that you borrowed $100 from me. So those cases in Tzarafi, those 2 single Eidim are Mitzaref to one Eidus because they're both masking that Reuven owes Shimon $100. Halva achar halva. But if one says, I saw Reuven lend Shimon $100 on Monday, and the other one says, I saw Reuven lend Shimon $100 on Tuesday, right? Or halva achar haida, if you have haida, Reuven says, I saw Reuven be maida that he owes Shimon $100 on Monday, and then the day on Tuesday, the second day it says, I saw Shimon lend money to Ruvain, so it's backwards in time. First came the Aidah, then came the Halva. Loi mitztarfi, those are not mitztarf. Because in both those cases, it's two separate transactions.
Yeah, but the shekel, it's actually a shekel.
No, it could both be true, but wouldn't have two eidim on it. In other words, I could be moida today that I owe you money, and tomorrow you could legitimately lend me money. It could be a different money, right? But therefore, it's two different transactions. These two single eidim are not saying eidus on the same thing, right? Ashker. So this is why Rav says that by karka the halacha is like Reb Shua ben Karcha, because by karka taka you have it's the same piece, right? Because wherever the karka is, it belongs to the guy. But by metaltlin, like a money, $100 bill, that you don't say it. Ashker of Nachman bar Yitzchak Rav Huna bar Rav Yeshua. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak met Rav Huna bar Rav Yeshua. Amar Lei, and he said to him, Maishna halva achar halva, the law yet a kash on Rav. Why is it that halva after halva is not okay? You can't be mitzdaraf two single eidim. The money, the kachazi high, the kachazi high. The money, the $100 bill that you saw Reuven, that the first aid saw Reuven give to Shimon, is not the same money as that the second aid saw Reuven give to Shimon. It's two separate transactions. Nami. But when they have two different haidas, that's also a money to come the kama. Kame high, my money kame high. The money that is being made in front of one is not necessarily the same money is being made in front of the other one. So how can you start the two? So he answered him, the Amrlei, Lahai Basra, he said to the second aid, the Leiva said to the second aid, V'hai mana doidu le kamach, odu le nami kame ploini. The same money that I'm being made in front of you, that's the same money I was made yesterday in front of Yankel. So he's saying it's the same one. So he asked, Akati Basri Yada Kamal Yada. So now the second one knows that it's the same money. How does the first one know it's the same money? The Gemara says, he said back to him, he goes back to the first one and he says, this money that yesterday I was made to you, today I was made to Pliny in front of someone else. Amarlei, so he said back to him, good, I'm very happy. You should have a good bracha seif dein cup. You should rest well. Why? Because you calmed me down. Right? I had trouble with the sugya. Amarlei, my nichusa. Why are you so happy with the sugya? Why are you so rested? There's a big problem with the sugya. The Rava, because Rava became Rav Sheshes, some say Rav Sheshes Shadab Narga threw a hammer and the monkey wrench into the works over here, and he said, Lav Hainu Oidah Acharalva. He said Akasha. He said like this: you're telling me that the case of Haidah Achar is that the Leiva went back and told both Eidim that he was made in front of the other guy also. Right? If that's the case of Haidah Achar Alva, which Rav says in Mitzdaref, is also has to be that case. It's the same kind of case. That he went back to the Leiva, because otherwise you could say it was two separate things. He did Alva on Monday and Haidah on Tuesday. Maybe it was two separate transactions. So it means he was said to the second guy, this Haidah is the same thing that I saw in front, that you saw, that the other guy saw me borrowing. And he goes back to the first guy and he says, this borrowings, ended up being made in front of so-and-so the next day. So then if that's the case, it's the same case. So why does Rav say both cases? So he said, this is a big kasha on this the whole thing that we're going over here. So, Amar Lei, so he said back to him, this is what I heard about people from your city. You cut down palm trees, and you build them, you plant them again after you cut them down. In other words, you gave me a good shot in the sugya, and then once you gave me a good shot in the sugya, you go and you slug it all up. What's going on over here?
You're right, like Rashi's place here.
Yeah? Nada Yamri, the Nada say, Ben Hada Charida, Ben Hada Charalva, Ben Alva Charalva, Ben Alva Charida. All these cases that we just said, mitztarfes, they are mitztarf, Kiman Rabbi Shimon Karcha, like Rabbi Shimon Karcha, that the Maisa, they're all maskim, that Reuven owes Shimon $100, and therefore they're all mitztarf. Amar Rav Yehuda, Eidas HaMakesha Suasu B'Vdika es Kshera. Kshera B'Dina Mamnas. And the Eidas where they're makish each other by the B'Dikais, which is the questions of that are not the actual who, what, when, where cases that could be Eidim Zaymin. By Dina Mamnas will be kosher, but by Dina Nefashos won't be. It looks like we have to stop over here. Here's Hashem. On Sunday, we'll pick it up on Daf Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph, the second line, the two dots on the second line.